Hello, welcome to The Moment. This time I'll be talking about a drug that could save the lives of women suffering from ovarian cancer, and I'll also be looking at a report into Northumberland development company Arch's spending excesses. So let's look at the first story. A new drug called Rubraca, developed for ovarian cancer, has been approved by the European Medicines Agency. According to a page on Newcastle University's website, quote, "First discovered approximately 20 years ago, it came out of research initiated at Newcastle University by Cancer Research UK-funded scientists." However, despite it now being available in Europe, it doesn't look like the drug is yet available in the UK. Quote, "If approved by the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence and the Scottish Medicines Consortium, it will allow ovarian cancer patients in the UK to access this new treatment." Rubraca's specific niche is patients with a BRCA gene mutation, and a page on the National Cancer Institute talks about the BRCA genes and what they do. BRCA1 and 2 are genes that produce tumour suppressant proteins. These proteins help repair damaged DNA and therefore play a role in ensuring the stability of each cell's genetic material. When either of these genes is mutated or altered such that its protein product is not made or doesn't function correctly, DNA damage may not be repaired properly. As a result, cells are more likely to develop additional genetic alterations that can lead to cancer. Returning to the Newcastle University page, they go on to say, quote, "Studies have shown that oral medication has a high success rate, as 54% of women in clinical trials had complete or partial shrinkage of their tumour for an average of 9.2 months. And then they go on to talk about the diagnosis of ovarian cancer, saying, "Each year around 7,000 women are diagnosed with ovarian cancer across the UK, and 1 in 50 women will develop the disease at some point in their life. Around 15 to 20% of women with ovarian cancer will have a BRCA gene mutation, putting them at an increased risk of developing other cancers, and a 50% risk of passing the faulty gene on to their children." Now, Rubraca has already been approved in the US by the Food and Drug Administration as of December 2016. A page on the FDA's website talks about how the approval in the US was based on data from 2 clinical trials, and these are the same trials that Newcastle University has been using for its figures in its press release. Now, these clinical trials in America tested the drug on 106 patients who were, in 96% of cases, found to have a BRCA gene mutation. All 106 patients received the drug at 600 milligrams orally twice a day, and the response was measured, both the objective response rate and the duration of response. The investigator-assessed objective response rate was 54%, and the median duration of response in those 57 responders was 9.2 months. So these were the clinical trials that the Newcastle University page was making reference to. And the FDA go on to say, quote, "The safety of the drug was evaluated in 377 patients with advanced ovarian cancer. The most common adverse reactions experienced by patients were nausea, fatigue, vomiting, anemia, abdominal pain, constipation, decreased appetite, and diarrhea. Adverse reaction led to dose discontinuation in 10% of patients, most frequently from fatigue." So, from the sounds of it, Rubraca is a potentially valuable drug when it comes to fighting ovarian cancer. A paper from the US National Library of Medicine says, quote, "Ovarian cancer is the 7th most common cancer worldwide for females and the most lethal of all gynecological malignancies. So the importance of a drug which at least mitigates cell mutation really can't be overstated, and it's definitely a step towards being able to fully treat this kind of cancer." So now let's turn to the final story. A report into the Northumberland development company Arch has found evidence of some extravagant spending. The report was written by Arch as part of an internal audit and was put forward at a meeting of the Northumberland County Council's Audit Committee on the 28th of March. So let's take a look at the report itself. The first point is in relation to Arch members' visits to Cannes. It says, quote, "During the strategic review of Arch, initial concerns were raised about gifts and hospitality. As part of further investigations into this area, internal audit has identified that there have been regular trips by Arch Group delegates to MIPIM Cannes and MIPIM UK. And I'll just say here that that stands for the International Market for Real Estate Professionals. They continue with a bullet-pointed list of matters to highlight to the Audit Committee. These include, quote, "Significant expenditure, approximately £73,000 in total, has been spent by Arch on 7 MIPIM events with no evidence of an evaluation of the benefits. Of the 73,000, internal audit has confirmed that a significant proportion of it has been spent on hospitality, including the purchase of high-cost meals and alcoholic beverages for Arch delegates, which on occasion has been nearing an amount of up to £200 per head. Of the £73,000 expenditure, significant amount has been spent on first-class travel and accommodation for which no policy could be evidenced and which would be out with the expectations of a wholly owned local authority company. On one occasion, travel and accommodation costs were in excess of £13,000 for that event. Half of the expenditure for this trip was recharged out of 2 external firms whose delegates had been invited to attend MIPIM Cannes as part of the Arch Group party of delegates. However, it transpired that Arch Group had booked the accommodation with a company that was found to be fraudulent. Arch had to refund the sums paid by the 2 companies. Of the £73,000, internal audit has not been able to source detailed evidence of what this expenditure has fully consisted of. And interestingly, in Section 2 on amount and declaration of gifts and hospitality, they say, quote, "As a separate matter, internal audit identified that from the 1st of April 2016 to the 30th of June 2017, the overall level of expenditure on the provision of hospitality is significant on the Arch Group Visa credit card alone. Initial evidence suggests that the level of expenditure during the identified period could be higher once other payment methods such as invoices and petty cash have been analysed." Section 3 talks about Arch providing support to Ashington Community Football Club over and beyond what would be expected, such as, quote, "Funding salaries with associated on-costs costing £132,000 from February 2015 to December 2017, provided for at least 2 members of staff who had not undertaken any work for Arch but worked directly for ACFC. Provided payment of ACFC utility bills, alarm repair costs, and brewery invoices relating to ACFC of approximately £17,000 on the premise of assisting with ACFC's cash flow issues, but to date these monies have not been repaid or recovered from ACFC. Providing excessive capital on improving ACFC facilities of approximately £1.6 million and providing sponsorship of ACFC, sportsman dinners, a corporate event for the new facility and some Christmas entertainment to the value of approximately £23,000. Section 5 talks about people management, describing Arch's HR and payroll management as significantly lax. Some of the evidence includes, quote, "Funding of driving lessons and driving test costs for a member of staff who did not require a driving licence for the role they were undertaking. Funding relocation expenses paid to an individual member of staff living in the same area of Northumberland without any documented rationale or due process, and further analysis is required into whether HMRC guidelines were adhered to. No clear evidence of salary structures, with some employees receiving 50% salary increases without any rationale being documented. Employee benefits being excessive, including examples of a vehicle being purchased by Arch for an individual's sole purpose in excess of £24,000 without HMRC declarations being made. Sums of up to £5,000 being awarded to new employees for a car allowance which does not appear to comply with HMRC guidelines. Payments made to employees which suggest they are duplicates of employee benefits and therefore not appropriate. employee benefits had not been calculated appropriately for the purposes of tax returns, and in some instances submissions such as P11Ds may not have been completed in full. The conclusion to all of this is that further analysis will be carried out, and that it's, quote, unacceptable that public funds have been utilised in this way. And that's really the main point here. The trips to Cannes and the expensive meals may seem excessive, but it can and has been argued that such trips are necessary for their work, and that other companies attend as well. But when you're spending taxpayers' money on personal vehicles, introductory employee benefits of £5,000, and keeping the lights on at a local football club, it's clear there is or was something fundamentally wrong with how art was allowed to continue. You would think that the council, for all they tried to save money by cutting services left, right and centre, would be a bit more observant with how a company wholly owned by them spends taxpayer money. And that's all for this episode. Be sure to join me in a fortnight's time for more from around Northumberland and Newcastle. Until then, I'm Oliver Ralph, and this is The Moment.